Hello and welcome. My guest today is Darrin, who had a near-death experience that he's going to share with us. Darrin, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Doing real good. Can you hear
Okay.
me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you good. You
Okay.
are free to pretty much just start at whatever point is most relevant to the story, and you can take it from there.
Okay. Well, Rich, I'll just start kind of what happened. Um, and I might kind of go back and forth a little bit because I have to build on it. Okay, so you understand.
That's fine.
Because I do one thing, okay, so I've been working for in the car business for many years at the time and chasing the dollar. I was that kind of person, and yeah, I'll back up a little bit too. When it comes to my spirituality, I was raised in a branch of the Mormon Church, and when I hit about 13 or 14, I started looking at it like, I don't know if I believe this. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
um, and I still have, whatever. But anyway, so I kind of was like looking at things like just different, and I kind of went out on my own path, and I got very worldly. Um, there might be times that I thought I believe in God, and there's times that like, no, this is not real. We all are kind of following stories from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Anyways, so back to where I was at. So I've been living a pretty crazy life. Um, I like to I like to party at the time and make money, and that's what I was doing. So this was Mother's Day in 2018, and I was having one of my best months ever in the car business, and I had gotten paid, and I ended up going to a casino with a friend of mine, and we were gambling, and I hit two big jackpots. And I remember him telling me, dude, you're the luckiest dude in the world, I swear. And I was like, yeah, hey. Anyways, um, we left there, and met some friends, went with some friends, and all of a sudden I was down the road from the casino, and it felt like something hit me, like a huge knife hit me right in the chest. I was fine, and then I was like, oh, what the hell? And they thought I was joking around, and I'm like, I'm not playing around, man. Something's wrong. And everybody's like, come on. And I was like, then they saw my eyes, the terror of like something's wrong. And I took off, and because I was trying to find my friend who had my keys, and I can't. I'm crippling over as I'm running down this hallway, like holy crap! I was at a hotel, by the way, and I catch my friend, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I gotta go to the hospital. Something's wrong." And he's like, he's all confused. And then the front desk there, they all realize something was going on. So they're like, "We'll call 911." And I'm like, I knew in my soul that I didn't, I didn't have until 911. I couldn't call 911. We had to get to the hospital now. And so I, I told him, I said, "Get me to the goddamn hospital." And we got the car, jumped in there, and we go driving up to the hospital, and we pull up to the emergency room. And when we pulled up there, I went to get out, and my legs didn't work anymore. And I smacked my head real hard on the concrete because I didn't realize that I was paralyzed. And at that moment, um, I was feeling like I couldn't breathe. Like I felt like there was a vacuum over me, sucking all my air out of me every time I tried to talk. And so I was like, "Dude, I'm dying." And he's like, "No, you're not." But I was when I talk, I'd be like, I'm dying. You know what I mean? And I was crossing over, and I knew that because my life was the breath of life was leaving my body, and that's why it was like. And I'm going to tell you, it's the most insane. It is. Uh, it's profound to feel when you start to cross over to the other world, okay? And I'm like, oh, it's happening. You know, I knew it's happening, right? So I'm telling him I'm dying, and he's like, "No, you're not." And I remember laying on the ground, and I'm like, and things are starting to things are starting to twirl and spin, you know. And I'm like, and I see him, and I can hear him, and he's like, "My friend's dying out here," and he comes back out, and I'm like, "I told you." They throw me up on the gurney, and they cut my clothes off of me, and I can remember handing him my wallet and my cell phone, and I was like, "Call my family." And at the time, my son was 5. I had a 5-year-old son. I was like, "Make sure you tell my boy I'll be back," you know. And they're reeling me away, and you know, when I'm saying that, my breaths are going out. So you know, when I'm telling you this, I didn't sound quite like that. I'm like, you know. So I'll tell you what happened though at the time. What happened is I had a aortic dissection. I don't know if you know what that is.
Mm-mm.
But your aorta is the main valve that comes out of your heart, and it pumps blood to all your other extremities and all your other organs. Okay. Well, mine, it popped. It's an aneurysm on this aorta, so it blew. But it wasn't just a little thing that blew. I mean, when it blew, it ripped, and it ripped all the way down to my groin. So your main blood vessel that your blood's pumping the blood into, imagine a big hose is going to be filtering hoses off to all the other parts. That main hose blows up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not getting blood anywhere where it's supposed to go, but it's going everywhere in my body, you know, just random, you know, I guess that's the best way I can say it. So they got me on the gurney, and I remember them rolling me down there, and I can feel myself totally crossing over, okay? And I can remember him hearing saying, he's in code blue. Code blue, you know, code blue means dying, you know. And at the time, that was kind of really where my memory left, okay? So I'm going to back up to and then there's so many series of events that it's almost the timing and everything can only be explained as divine intervention, not necessarily coincidence, okay? Or if it is, then my buddy was right. I'm the luckiest man in the world, because it just doesn't, okay? So the hospital we went to happened to be just about 2 miles away from the hotel we were at. So we got there quick, right? The surgeon that did my surgery was one of the only surgeons that was skilled in aorta dissections, and he happened to be doing a rotation at North Kansas City Hospital in Kansas City. That's where I'm from, okay? Otherwise, he would have been at his home hospital, which is St. Luke's, and they would have had to life flight me. I would have died. He had just scrubbed out because he would finish the shift, and he was on his way home when I pulled up in 911, you know what I mean, in my own emergency. And he had to scrub back in, and he scrubbed back in and did I think it was like an 8.5-hour surgery, and it was a mess. I mean, it was bad. And oh yeah, and the chief surgeon there, after I came out of my coma, told me that he'd never seen a surgery so perfectly orchestrated. Okay, he was like, "I've never seen nothing like it." It was like this guy was. He said it was just amazing. Anyways, so where does I got there? So I had the surgery. So he's come in. They came out and they tell my family, okay, we had to freeze his brain because he was losing so much blood. So my brain was basically frozen while they were doing the surgery. They said he's going to have severe nerve damage. It was 50-50. He'll even make it. He made it through the surgery, so that's good. But now for the next month, we'll just have to see, because he might not pull through this. This was horrific, he said, you know, because it's, you know, it was crazy. So I made it through all. I mean, and I was in a coma for 4 weeks. Okay, and here's the thing about coma. So when I tell my near-death experience what happened, I know that in comas, there's drug. Mine was, it was drug induced. They had to keep me there, you know. and I'd wake up and freaking out and stuff. So my near-death experience is before I'm in the coma. Okay, it was actually when I was crossing over, when they were saying code blue. I haven't had any of their drugs yet. Okay, so, and there was coma weird dreams too that happened, where I thought I was being abducted and stuff. So, but this is my near-death experience is pre that. This is going from the driveway of the emergency room back to the surgery table. Okay, so I'm in this coma, and I wake up and I don't know what's going on, and and I have a trach, where they had down in my throat and stuff, so I could breathe and stuff. So it was a big ordeal. It was about 5 or 6 weeks. I was in the coma for about 2.5 months. I mean, I was in the hospital for about 2.5 months, but I was in the coma for about 4 weeks, something like that. And it was about, once they took the trach out, I could call my friend, right? So I wanted to call him and say, hey man, thanks for getting me to the hospital, And so I did. We're talking. And he was like, dude, you got to tell me what was going on. You freaked me out so bad. And I'm like, yeah, I had an aneurysm. And I told him, he's like, no, something really weird. And so he tells me, he goes, when you remember when you gave me the phone and your wallet and said to call your family and whatever, blah, blah, and tell your son you'll be back. And I'm like, yeah. He was like, well, when they're rushing you away, I could hear you screaming, where's my dad? Where's my dad? Well, my dad had died a year ago. Okay. So I'm like, oh yeah. And so now my memories are coming back. Right. And then he said, then you were screaming, holy shit. I said, I'm with Satan. I'm with Satan. Somebody help me. I'm with Satan. Right. And he said, and then he goes, the weirdest thing. He goes, and when you were saying that, he goes, I've never heard terror in someone's voice so strong as like, I'm with Satan. And then he said, and then you said, Jesus saved me. And he said, man, the whole place went silent. And he goes, I thought you died. And I ran back there and they stopped me and they wouldn't let me come back there. And they were just getting me in the surgery and stuff. And he was like, so, what was going on, And as soon as he told me that, all the memory came back. I mean, it's like a floodgate. And I just started crying. I mean, I had to hand the phone off to like a relative, my mom, I think it was. And I'm like, I can't talk because it was so powerful. So here's what it happened when the memory came back. And I remember this now that we went through that and it came back. This is how I know it's not from like a dream, because, dreams are weird and you'll forget stuff. And, I can remember this verbatim to a T. So I remember him rolling back and I could feel myself trying to push out of my body. It's a weird feeling, but I knew, and I was hearing that code. I'm like, this is it. And I remember thinking, where's my dad? And I can't really explain, but the two realms were colliding. This physical and the other, they were coming together, right? And I'm like, so I knew my dad had died. So I'm like, where's my dad? He's got to greet me. Somebody's going to meet me, right? And I didn't see my dad. I'm just be honest, I didn't. But then when I said I see Satan, I didn't see Satan that I remember. I don't know why I was yelling that, but I went to a dark void, and this void is cold. It was ice cold, and there was a negative energy. When you go down a roller coaster and you hit the dip, the G-force.
Yeah.
That's what you feel like. That's what I was feeling like something was just pushing my spirit just down. And I'm like, oh, and I could hear this black goo, like this, and I want to say it was like magnetic goo that was just dripping all around me. And I'm like, and dude, I want to tell you, do you ever remember like when you were a kid, maybe you got lost at the store with your mom or something, or something, like that? Oh my God, I'm all by myself. Mm-hmm. Take that and times it to the largest number possible. I've never felt an alone feeling like this. Like I was like in this void of nothingness, right? And it was all around me, and I freaked out. And that's when I said, Jesus saved me. And as soon as I said that, in the right corner of my eye up here, it was like this little match. Sometimes I get shook up when I tell a story, okay? So don't laugh at me.
No, that's totally fine.
I try to be manly, but sometimes, what the
It's
hell.
all good.
Anyways, this as soon as I said that, this spark lit up in my eye, and it just like this, it just grew, and it was like taking a paper, like some tissue paper, and lighting it, and how it goes. Whoosh. That's how it went across my whole vision, and it engulfed me. Okay, like, and it took my breath away, and I was like, "Oh, I'm home." And that's the best description I can tell you that I felt was like, "I'm home. I made it. I've made it." I might be dead, but whatever. But I've made it to where I'm supposed to be, and I'm like, "Oh." And I had this warm feeling just come over my spirit of total security, and like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I just remember being in this engulfed in this white light, and I'm looking around, and I looked into this white light, or this energy, and as I looked into it, I could see these other colors that were kind of morphing around, kind of like just kind of moving. But as I looked, and my eyes would focus better, I realized those are souls, those are spirits, those are people, those are entities that, and they had human like facials, faces and stuff. And I felt like I knew everybody there, and they looked at me like they had been missing me forever. But I didn't recognize one person. I've lost a lot of people on Earth. Friends and family, buried them. I didn't. I mean, unfortunately, I don't recognize it. I didn't recognize anybody there. But that was the furthest thing from my mind. I just felt like my people, and the colors were of the spectrum that we have here of the rainbow, of these different things. Like, but there's a lot of other colors that I can't put words to because I can't describe it. Someone that's never had eyesight before, explain the color red or violet to them. How would you do that? I mean, how do you do that? I
Yeah.
don't know. So I can't do it either. Best thing I could say was there was like a metallic to them. There was this really beautiful shine, like, and I realized those were like the people and stuff. And everybody, oh yeah, here's another thing. Every orb, or what do you want to call it, this soul or something, had this beauty about it that was just, and everybody was, it was, they were different, but everybody's on the same playing field. There was no, oh, that one's really pretty, or that one's, it was just, they were all just, it was just overwhelming, right? And then it was like, as I was looking, all of a sudden this a very tall white light silhouette. I couldn't see a face or anything. I don't know if it was the Holy Ghost, Jesus, or alien. I don't know, but I'm going to give it credit because I called out to a certain name, and that's what happened to save me. Okay, so hopefully it was, but an angel. I don't know, but this image came out, and it stood next to me, and it was tall. It was real tall, and I remember looking up at it, and all of a sudden, like, my life, and my son was just 5, and it's like his life without me went through my mind, like, and I turned to it, and I was like, not yet, please don't, not yet, please don't take me yet. And then I woke up, and it's been 5 weeks. There's more. I mean, uh, there were some other stories that kind of like of some worm tunneling, but that was when I was definitely in my coma. This has all happened, you know, from all pre to that. Okay, so I had slipped out of. I was crossing over this world, and they had to. They were losing me back and forth. So it wasn't like the drug induced comas that you get, that people have. Because, and I can tell you, there's, I got during that time when they would try to wake me up and stuff. I thought I was in a. And so here's the difference. Okay, I remember like one time I'd been out, they would try to bring me to, and I would freak out. They had me tied to the bed and stuff, and I thought they were stealing bone marrow out of me and making protein drinks. Okay, so that's coma dream crap there. So I told my brother, I'm like, and he told me about it. He was like, I'm like, dude, you got to get me out of here. And he's like, you're sick, bro. And I was like, no, screw that, dude. They're trying to make protein drinks out of me. And he looked at me. He's like, No, they're not. I'm like, fuck yeah. so, there's the big clarity for me of the near death experience, and then the coma institute experience. Did you lose me? Can you
No,
hear me?
no. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So there's two different things there, and through the near death experience too. When I came out of that and I got, okay, so I left in a wheelchair. All right, I left in a wheelchair. I had to learn how to walk again, and I had to relive some things that have happened. Like when I came out of my coma, I was asking, "Where's my dad?" And they're like, "He passed away." So from the time that this happened to when I came out of the coma, I'd forgotten that. So I had to kind of like, oh, I forgot. Wow, things like that. Um, but one thing I did get out of it was, in this physical world, it lies to us like a ton. It when we what the true beauty of every individual, of you, of me, of the kids on the wall in your picture, is inside, okay? And that's what crosses over. And in this world, for some reason, it's been manipulated or whatever to lie to us. So, and now I see people like you're trying so hard to be this on the outer image, this beautiful person, and that fades. That's going to be gone. And it's like it's just sad that the world lies to us, because the true beauty in people is on that inside. You know, I don't care, and we're so exterior programmed. You know, dudes feel like they need to have the six pack and the chest and whatever, and chicks think they need to have the eyelashes that are 4 feet long, and and I mean, and I'm not knocking any of that. It's good to feel good about yourself, and that's what you do. But I'm just saying, sometimes people get so lost in that they forget of who how I see it is how God intended you to be.
Hmm.
And and I got a second chance. I'm a miracle, and I'm a case study at the hospital, because I shouldn't I shouldn't be here. And here's another reason too. I can tell you. Okay, surgeons. Okay, we all know are pretty arrogant people. And a lot of people they get. I'm in the car business, so just because you're in the car business, they all say, "Oh, you're a con, you're a hustler." No, no, I wasn't. I sold cars, but I wasn't. I did it with integrity. But surgeons, you think, oh, they got God complex and stuff because they save lives. Well, my surgeon, when I first met him, and one of my first visits after I was getting better and whatever, and I met with him, and I was like, Dr. Allen, Dr. Keith Allen. I was like, the man with the magic hands. And he was like, oh, buddy, I'd like to take credit, but you need to be thanking somebody up there, because I don't know how we're having a conversation right now. This, especially in this state, I'm not, you're not a vegetable, because I really thought I was going to be a vegetable. I lost, it just was. My mom told me she counted like over 15 bags of blood that they're trying to pump into me at one time and stuff. It was crazy, yeah. But that hospital really did good. But yeah, so I have a different connection with my other side, if you want to say. Um, and I realized, when we go, it doesn't have to be scary. I went to a really scary place. I don't know if everybody's gonna does that at one point. I don't know. I don't know what that was all about, but I'm just telling you what I saw. Um, but I do believe there's energy, and there's that negative force, that I first went through, and there's the positive force. And when I die, it's not gonna matter how much money I made, and how many girls I banged, and how much good time I had. That's that negative, or whatever. It's going to be how many people I helped, how many people I loved, how many um, good, not necessarily, I'm not going to say good deeds, but yeah, good deeds. I mean, being a good person that feeds, you feed one of the two, and that's what you have to focus on. So it totally flipped my whole view of things. But that makes sense.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the first things I wanted to ask you was in what way has your life changed? Is like some people say when they go through this experience, they come out a completely different person. Is that the same for you?
Well, I'm going to be honest. Okay, so like I said, I like to use drugs. Okay, I liked a lot of coke and speed and all that stuff. Anyways, um, when I first came out, yeah, I was on fire. I couldn't believe that I made it this way, and I was, am I gonna be able to walk again and all that, and I was good to go, gung ho, and then I came home and I uh, I have drop foot now. I can walk, but when one leg kind of drags and stuff, and my hips messed, it kind of hurts and all this stuff. So anyhow, um, I went from a I went from a point of gratitude from grateful to resentful. Does that make sense? Well, I did go through a period, as stupid as it is, and this is how I can tell people, like, because I help people now that suffer from hardcore like addictions and whatnot, and I understand. I don't care what you've been through, you can get stupid again. But I went through a little period where I got resentful that I couldn't be the old me, you know, um, and I went back to work and I couldn't compete because I couldn't walk fast enough on the and it was just taking too much out of me. So then I kind of got depressed and I went through this depressed and stuff, and so I went back to my old ways for just a little bit, and I got real sick again, and I could almost I could have died again. Then I went to my mother's house. Left my house. I went to my mother's house and I went to a bedroom and I just said, I'm real sick and I need to heal. I spent 2 weeks in prayer. I had to come out and eat, and I prayed and prayed, and that was 2.5 years ago. Um, and since then, I I just reevaluated everything, and I felt like I had slapped God in the face. The shame that because I knew that He had brought me through this, and He showed me this thing, right? That of what's, I got this. A lot of people don't get that experience, or come back and even share it. And then I went back, and so if I'm with somebody and we're partying and I'm like, oh, this terrible thing happened and I almost died, but here I am again. Well, that doesn't give much.
Yeah.
So that but I was relieved of that. I've came out stronger. So I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I don't smoke cigarettes no more. Um, I don't do any drugs anymore. I don't do any of that. I'm walking now. I ride bicycle every day. I'm probably healthier now than I've have been since in my 20s. My leg, one of my legs doesn't work right. I'm not gonna go out. It's like this. If we're in a if we're like out and we're getting chased by a killer, I'm gonna be the sacrificial guy, okay? Because I can't run. If the cops are after us, I guess that I'm caught. No, I'm just
Yeah.
joking. But that's kind of where I'm at now. So now, what I'm saying now is now I've been I realize that I want to give my message out. Um, I do give all glory to God and the grace, and um, I don't know, and I'm never. I like to share my experience and try to open anybody's mind. I'm not gonna ever take moral high ground and say, well, I know best because of my experience. All I can do is share to people, and they can take it however they want. I do believe I do believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe that part of the Bible stuff. Um, and I believe that the whole Christian movement was originally supposed to be an awakening that got manipulated and turned into a culture and then eventually a business, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
I think we as humans should be trying to focus to bring the awakening back around. You know what I mean? Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
That's my
And
goal. That's why I started this podcast.
really, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't know because you said you did tarot cards, so I didn't know where you were at. But yeah,
Yeah, that, like I said, that was kind of a glorious mistake, and
yeah, I got
I used that position that I was put in to help with that very thing,
you.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's cool. Yeah,
yeah, man.
yeah. I used to mess with them too, and then it's a whole other story, but I won't. My ex-wife, her and her friends be doing it at my house, and I was like, you can't be doing that in here because I
Yeah.
do believe there's gateways. So
Oh, it can. Oh, yes, it can.
yeah,
That
yeah,
when
yeah.
you're,
Especially when you don't know what you're doing,
yeah.
like
Hmm.
yeah. And the reason my bad experience, just to back up, was I had a girlfriend that had no clue, and she's giving people readings. She didn't know that if they were upside down, they meant something different. She's just saying crap, and I'm like, yeah, there's people that really are taking this to heart, man. You can't
Hmm.
be doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I always tell everybody divine energy is just simply divine energy. People think that it's either good or bad. They'll throw a label on it like it's good, or somebody will say no, that's evil, and it's like no, it depends on what you're doing and what your intentions are. You can
Mm-hmm.
open up gateways, and I've done that before, where you can
Yeah,
open up a gateway to let something really. When I played with a Ouija board one time, that happened. If
yeah,
if
yeah,
you don't know what you're doing, yes, it can open up gateways, and
yeah,
all kinds of
yeah.
negative stuff can come through. But yeah,
Yeah, I can tell you that on that Ouija board when I was this is true story. Just I don't know if you want to hear it, but we made one when we were back in our 20s. This is true. My best friend, we were all doing it, and my best friend Scott asked it when he was first we had a friend that wasn't there, and he was expecting a baby. Okay, so we were like, is Jason's boy gonna be or a kid gonna be a boy or girl? And it said boy, right? And then we were like, okay, what are they going to name it? Because none of us knew. It was relatively, whatever. And it just spelled out the words TY. So, okay. So then my friend Scott was like, when am I going to die? And it said 34. And at the time we were 24, I remember, because it was 10 years. And we were like, I'm like, that's only 10 years away, dude. And he was like, how are we going to die? And it said, the way, the way you live or something like way you live or something like that. And we all got spooked and stuff. And he asked me, and I was like, I don't know, I don't want to know. But anyways, sorry, I've been getting over a cold. So, anyways, I called my friend, yeah, a little while. When I talked to him again, I was like, hey, you know if your kid's a boy or a girl yet? And he was like, I don't know yet. And I was like, well, do you know what you're going to name it? And he was like, well, if it's a girl, it's going to be whatever. And he said, if it's a boy, we're naming it Taylor or Tyler. I'm like, oh, wow. That's a trip. Well, he ended up having a boy, and his name's Taylor.
hmm.
And so I'm like, that's weird. Then what's even weirder is, no, my best friend at the time, we kind of stopped being friends. He got too crazy for me, We were all wild as hell, but he got real crazy, okay? And he overdosed when he was 34
Wow.
and died. And I got the phone call and he had died, but it wasn't until a little bit afterwards I remembered that. And I was like, what the?
Oh
Kind
yeah,
of crazy.
it's
So
real.
yeah,
That stuff's very, very real. That's why you have
very
to
real.
go into it
And
with a good intention and knowing what you're
yeah,
doing.
yeah, and it can lie to you too. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
but
anyway,
yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say before we wrap this up, did you have maybe a positive message that you would want to share with the viewers?
Yeah, positive message is take the time to look internally. See that part. This is temporary. This is permanent. What's in here? Take time to feed that. You know, I mean, yeah, it's nice to look good and all that. I get that and all that, but I watch so many, and I mean, I'm not, especially with females, they get so obsessed with their outer appearance that they don't ever take time to feed the inner soul, their own, the inside. You know what I mean? And as you do that, like with me, I mean, I, 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 I like my perception of auras have gotten stronger of people. Like I can tell people that have got a good energy way better than I used to. Like it's kind of weird, and this is all temporary and it goes quick. And but my main thing is I, I believe Jesus is real. When I told you I was in prayer for 2 weeks, God's never given up on me. And that's why when you guys reached out to me, I'm more than willing to do podcasts and stuff. And I'm going to say something real quick. I always wanted to be that guy that had that. Like I'd be like down in the dumps, and I'd see friends like, I turned it over to Jesus, and my life has just been grand. And I'm like, I've done that. I've done the prayer. I've done all that. It doesn't. It just doesn't happen for me. Well, maybe if I guess for me, it had to be a really hardcore turn it over to. I don't know. But it is there, man. Um, and get that connection can be happened. It takes daily connection with the higher power, with that spirit, with the God, Jesus, however you want to say it. It's that's that's my experience basically. I don't know.
All right. Well, I greatly appreciate you sharing your experience. I wish you the best and you have a good day. Okay.
Okay, Rich, when are you gonna have this up?
Well, I'm going to be editing this because there's a few things I got to edit out, and it should be tonight before I go to bed. And I'll send you the link when
Okay.
it's done. All right.
Okay. The rest of the day I'm gonna think of things I should have said, and it's gonna drive me crazy. You know that, right?
Okay.
All right, buddy. I
All right.
appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All
Bye.
right. Take care.